you, board member. We appreciate it. We love Jeanette. We love this next one very much as well. So at this time, I want to bring forth someone else even more phenomenal. All of you all are. At this time, I want to bring to you to have a discussion tonight about psychological well-being, biopsychosocial effects. This is the heartbeat of what Credit Restoration Institute is standing for. And I think after you hear this speech, this discussion, it will make a lot of things make sense as to what CRI is trying to do with the community. At this time, I would like to bring up Dr. Kathy Hughes, PhD. She is our chairwoman. She's also our spiritual advisor and our data scientist. Kathy?
Gosh.
A lot of big shoes to fill, but you're
Okay. I know I only have 15 minutes, but y'all, I can talk fast if I have to. So I'm going to go through this quickly. That's why I have slide presentations, because I talk fast and I don't want to lose track of what I'm saying. And then we can have Q&A if we have time. So I'm here to talk about the world of credit worthiness and its impact on individuals, families, and society. Okay, all together. It is a very, very brief introduction. Okay, so why, starting out with the testimony, they told me, now, Dr. Hughes, you need to be brief and you need to give testimony. So that's what I focused on. So what is credit worthiness and why do we care? My personal testimony, I'll use graphics so it's easy to remember. So in 2017, I had no debt. Yay! But I had no credit cards. I thought that was good. I'm a fan of credit card. I had no credit either. Well, what do I know? I didn't know anybody anything. I had few credit-worthy assets. I had a vehicle and an RV that I paid cash. They were all paid off. And I had, yay, a low 600 credit score. So my personal testimony was, I was like, shoot, I don't want credit cards. I don't want to get in debt, because to me, having credit cards meant I was going to be in debt the rest of my life. So that's how I started out in 2017. Then I met Robert. You'll see Robert right here. He was shining the light on, showing the light. He was shining the light for me on the way. So met Robert and learned about the Credit Restoration Intervention. So through that, meeting him, I realized I had a fair credit score. 580, 669 is how that range works. And I decided I'll go ahead and get one credit card. So with great consternation and hesitation, I got that credit card because Robert said I needed to get one. And so I had, that should say I had no credit card debt or credit card or other debt. So I didn't have any debt. And I had limited credit-worthy accounts and assets. And I mention this because I guess cell phone, if you go to buy something, at least you have to have something. And I think that's how I got my original credit card is, well, I've paid my cell phone all these years. I've never been late. Then it shows I have a permanent address, so we're good, right, aren't we? Let's go, no, you need to know the formula. So 2019, and I'll keep 2017 up here so you know where I started. Then and he talked me into, I got 2 credit cards. Still with great hesitation. But I still had no credit card and no other debt. That's neat to remember that. And my credit score went up. It went up from fair to a good credit score. I was like, wow, look at that. Something is happening here. And same old credit worthiness assets, a cell phone, an older vehicle, and an RV. Then comes 2020. I went up to a very, what's considered the rate of a very good credit score. Why? Because I added a credit card. Oh yay, the credit card company's like this. And I'm holding up, I'm cheering at this point, right? And I demonstrated, and this is the key, a positive payment history on those little credit cards. So if I charge something, which Robert said, well, you gotta use it, don't just have it sitting there, it's not gonna do anything. Okay, Robert, okay, I'll do that. So I'd use it and then immediately pay it off. And that became the way I worked. So I still had limited credit worthiness assets. I still being a miser. I'm not gonna incur any debts. And 2021, it started going up and up and up, and then I decided to get some property. I bought a home, property, and had I not started preparing when I met Robert, there's no way I would have been able to get a mortgage. There's just no way. Even though I didn't have any debt, the relationship between where a person was when they came into CRI, so if they came in with, like me, came in with a 650 score or whatever it was, it doesn't matter. I'm not a good example because I'm a pretty positive person, but if someone comes in with a 600 score and you look and they're homeless or they're at risk of homelessness or in their apartment and they're being evicted or whatever, we're able to look at the relationship between what credit restoration does in offering not only the restoration, the legal part of it, but what they offer in terms of the educational piece, the financial education. So CRI provides the tools are part of the learning process. So I looked at the relationship and started collecting data on the score that they had when they came into CRI and their answers to questions on the validated quantitative research that I was collecting. So what I did is and we're doing this again, we're going to start a new study in January, and it'll become part of a national study. We will have them take the creditworthiness survey that I designed and have already used in the original study, and they'll take it so we'll see where they are when they come into credit restoration for the very first, at the very beginning. And we analyze their perceptions or attitudes towards those who are in psychology, understanding, perception, anxiety, hopelessness, suicide, and so on. And then once they've received certain points in the credit restoration process, represents points at which improvements can be made. Creditors can't harass you any longer, okay? Because now they're in the credit restoration process. And now I've had some training, I've had some education. Now I've worked with the community resources and partners that are in this room. I've given you some hope. My big thing is hope. I love to research and study hope. I care about hope. I think hope is what gives us hope to go on when we're in the midst of the wilds of this world. I mean, hopelessness is abundant. And so how can we measure the relationship between improvement in credit scores and improvement in biopsychosocial issues? And look at wraparound. Yes, we can. We can measure that. And so that's what the study was, and we collect data at intake before they had no intervention whatsoever, as any good research study would do. And then we collected at 3 times throughout the credit restoration process, and then we collect the same, they take one final test or a questionnaire at the end, and then we compare the results across the longevity of the program. So we can actually measure scientifically, and the more the number measure the relationship between credit scores, because I collect data on the credit scores, and we've developed our own internal credit restoration score that will go national. It's a proprietary data collection tool that we've designed. But so that's what we're doing. We're starting a mood study in January for Richmond, our area, Virginia. We'll start here, and then we'll expand to other NACSO. Robert's the chairman of the National Association of Service Credit Organization, which is NACSO, and I think there's 66 of those in the country. So we'll end up doing this study with those as time goes on. You want to comment on that, Robert?
NACSO is the trade association that regulates the credit repair industry.
Yeah.
And I sit on the board of that.
And the credit, and that's the regulating the credit repair industry. That's what I want to look at is working with the credit repair industry nationally, and who I work with the DC Financial Bureau, CFPB, Consumer Financial Bureau. They manage a lot of this, regulate and work with regulators on how this creditworthiness process works. That's somebody I used one of their instruments to analyze the credit financial piece, the financial well-being piece. But the research that I've done is very, very deep and very extensive, but that's just kind of a high look at it, a view of it, in order to, our takeaway is there a relationship? Can we conclusively show the relationship